It is 1 o'clock here on the East Coast, sorry. So we are going ahead and get our call started on time. Everyone is now on mute, but when it comes time for questions and comments, I'll tell you how to request unmuting so that we can call on you. My name is Waboy, and I am one of two citizen empowerment coordinators here at American Promise. And I want to welcome you to the July 2018 National Citizen Leadership Call, and this is a call that happens on the second Saturday of every month. Thanks to all of you who have taken the time out of your busy weekends to join us today, or maybe you couldn't make it live and you're listening to the recording afterwards. Either way, you're stepping up to save our democracy, so thank you. So this call is super exciting because it's following our incredible National Citizen Leadership Conference that we hosted in D.C. just last month, where we had over 300 citizen leaders come, and we were excited to feature APA leaders on this call today, who attended the conference, and they're going to talk about what they learned and how they're going to implement some of the knowledge that they learned at the conference in their APA's work, especially with their work with the members of Congress. So you all are the guest speakers this month, which is super exciting. We're going to hear from Jamila Elder and Jesse McDade from the New York APA, and then we'll also hear from Tri-County APA members Marie Hensletter-Kimmel and Kelly Clark. Last month, we heard from Dr. Carolyn Lucasmeyer, who is the Executive Director of the National Institute for Civil Discourse, and she spoke with us about the importance of relationship building and respectful, civil, everyday conversation. If you missed that call, or any of our other calls for that matter, you can go onto our YouTube channel by typing in American Promise in the search tab of YouTube, and you can click on our playlist, and there you can find recordings of our previous calls, as well as different speakers and panels that we featured at our conference. So definitely check out our YouTube channel if you missed the conference or any of the other calls and want to get up to speed. So after we hear from our APA leaders, we're going to hear a grassroots victory from Jerry Lloyd, who is a member of the Kansas City, Missouri American Promise Association. He's going to talk about his group's recent launch workshop and the incredible guest commentary that he had published in a local paper that really helped with the turnout for this workshop. And then after that, we're going to talk about this month's action, which is writing letters to the editor, highlighting the incredible lobby day that we had at our conference, where over 70 congressional meetings happened, which is just spurring more and more conversations and awareness about our work to enact the 28th Amendment. So thank you to everybody who is stepping up. And if you're interested in learning more about starting an American Promise Association, or APA, in your community, feel free to send me an email at wambuig@americanpromise.net. That's wambuig@americanpromise.net. Now, I want to start off this call by sharing a quote from an ancient Latin philosopher, Tibullus Cyrus, who said, "Where there is unity, there is always victory." Let me repeat that. Where there is unity, there is always victory. And I wanted to share this quote because this call is dedicated to celebrating the victories our APAs have had recently with their congressional meetings and their involvement at our conference. And I hope that this call unifies us further in our fight for the 28th Amendment and energizes those who couldn't come to their conference about the work that we are doing and that has been done, and that is getting us closer to victory. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our first guest speakers, Jamila and Jesse, who are members of the New York City APA, and they attended Lobby Day last month. Their APA is only 5 months old, so it's super exciting to hear what they're accomplishing. Jamila, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here to talk to all my experience during Lobby Day. I think that, for myself, this was the first time that I had ever met with a member of Congress, or in this case, actually, it was a staffer of. So I really didn't know what to expect, and we were actually lucky enough that we were able to have 4 scheduled meetings with different members of Congress that we each tag team on and attended. So I am glad that I have a point of comparison as each of the meetings were very, very different. I will say that one of the things that really surprised me about the meetings was how little the members of Congress really collaborate with each other. Like I said, we met with 4 from the same state, and 2 of them were actually senators. So it's very interesting to me that, they don't really talk to each other and asked us to come back to them and report on how the meetings went with their peers in the same state. So I found that very interesting and surprising. The other piece that I actually found surprising also, and one of the things that we wanted to try and get an understanding of was what prompted this particular member of Congress to actually co-sponsor one of the 2 legislations, HJR 31 and HJR 48, versus the others. So what we found in our case was that most of the New York Congress people were sponsoring HJR 31, but not HJR 48. And when we asked the question about why, most of the staffers weren't actually able to give us a concrete answer. Some made assumptions that it had to do with the language that was in one over the other that allowed the congressperson to co-sponsor it, but they didn't have a concrete answer. So one of our follow-ups coming out of the meetings was to circle back with them for a more concrete answer about why they would choose to sponsor one over the other. And then also I would say the other area that surprised me the most was the different opinions that they had about how to go about enacting an amendment to the Constitution. So we specifically asked a few of them, would you go through Congress or would you do it through a constitutional convention? And at least the 2 meetings that I was in where I asked this question, I got different answers from both of the staffers. So one was in favor of a convention, one was in favor of getting it enacted through Congress. So that was, again, very, very enlightening to hear from their perspective. So I would say that, I know a little bit more about what to expect for future meetings and how to maybe better prepare myself and prepare them for what it is that we want to try and accomplish out of the meeting. So I would say that, again, for myself, like I said, there were some surprises that I can be better prepared for in the future. So that was basically all that I had to share with everybody. And hopefully you found that very, very helpful.
Thank you so much, Jamila. Jessie, feel free to share.
Oh, hi. I'm Jessie. So I took the learnings and takeaways sort of portion from our meeting. So one of the things that I thought was interesting was that to actually tell them what the bill is, describe the issue, not necessarily just give them the bill number, because they actually aren't going to know what it is. They change in different Congresses, of course. And this was my second lobbying experience. I had done another one for consumer issue, and when doing that, the same thing. They had asked about, they had told us to refer to the resolution number, but the staffers didn't know what that was. So so being able to tell them exactly what the issue was, and then leave the piece of paper, leave the paper that says what the actual resolution number is. I guess I was also surprised and pleasantly surprised that they didn't know exactly what the resolutions were, but two of our members of Congress had not signed onto the resolution. One was Schumer, who hadn't signed SR 8, and the other one was Clark, who hadn't signed onto 31. And I mean, I'm 48. And actually, after talking to them and explaining what it was, they signed on. So when I looked the next day, they had both signed on. So that was a welcome thing, and sort of showed that we could make a difference, which was for me a really great takeaway, was that maybe they were not aware of what you were asking for, and so that we're helping to educate them. So that was, for me, a really exciting takeaway. Also, let's see, we had to be persistent in trying to get a meeting with them, and it seems like the most effective way, they have these things to sign up online, contact your congressman, but by calling their office, that we got immediate results from doing that. So for me, for the future reference, I'm just going to bypass trying to fill out a form online and call them directly to get an appointment. I also found one of the interesting things for me was being able to start a conversation with other people who are not involved with American Promise or who don't know about these issues we're trying to, stamp out money in politics. We took pictures with the aides after our meetings, and outside the office with the plaque and the flag, and I posted them on Facebook. And for me, this started a conversation with a number of people who were on my feed and who were my friends and looking, and who expressed real interest in learning more. So I thought that was great to have that sort of visual to help promote, just even among people that you might know who might not know how important this is. And let's see, what else? And I guess, too, that they definitely seen, I guess I'll say what Jamila is saying as well, that they were definitely interested in follow-up with us. I was pleasantly surprised how willing they were to work with us in the future, and that it might be that we'd have to talk with different members in their offices, because some people were just doing policy, so we were speaking with them for the campaign finance. But in the future, when we might want to do an event or have them sign or co-author a letter to the editor, that then we might be working with other people in the office. So it was really sort of developing maybe even a bigger relationship than I had thought, with more people in the office. And I guess lastly, that they were really interested in having us follow up with them about not just what other people were doing in our state, which was a surprise, but also in other states. How did their lobby day go? What was the reactions that other Congress people were having to the requests, such as signing, and that they were really eager to have us follow up with information about other people and what they were thinking, and other states. And also for me, a couple of the people were really interested in seeing, was there any reception with people who were in more Republican-led states? Was there any willingness to work? So those, I guess, were the big learnings and takeaways from my standpoint from doing it. So it was exciting and interesting, that's for certain. So, and that made me feel like I really accomplished something by getting 2 signatures. So that was great. So we felt as a group we really did something.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jesse and Jamila. Now I'm going to pass it over to our next speakers, Marie and Kelly of the Tri-County, New Jersey APA, who also went to Lobby Day and are going to share some of their thoughts and takeaways from that. Let me just, Marie, you are unmuted, and Kelly, you are unmuted. Feel free to share.
Thanks, Boy. I've had the opportunity to visit Washington a few times in the past as a tourist, and many years ago to attend rallies around different issues. And each of those times, I felt really proud to be an American and proud of our national capital. But I have to say, the experience of being on Capitol Hill with the buildings and, just the iconic symbols, and being there to advocate in my congressional offices for a fix to our democracy was really a moving experience. I felt like probably the most patriotic I've ever felt. And I'd strongly recommend all of you to take advantage of any opportunity to do that, maybe next year at our national conference and Lobby Day, or any other opportunity, especially on this money out of politics issue. I wanted to give some details of the first meeting of the day that we had to illustrate a key takeaway about meetings with members of Congress. I've had the positive experience of engaging in prior meetings with the staff of our Congressman Norcross and actually the staff of Senator Cory Booker at home in New Jersey, with 4 to 5 other members of our APA, where everyone spoke at those meetings. We followed the agenda, but everyone got a chance to speak. We in New Jersey have gone from 0 APAs a year ago to now 4 APAs. So we were lucky that there were 16 New Jersey attendees for the conference, but 14 who were going to Lobby Day. So the meetings for the 2 senators we had were arranged so that all 14 of us could go in a group to lobby together to the staff members that we were meeting with. So in advance of the of the meetings, obviously, we prepared and we planned on 6 or 7 speakers to fulfill the various roles in the agenda in the interest of meeting our goals of about a 30-minute time frame that they had scheduled us for. Using the agenda and preparing ahead, I felt really confident that even as a large group like that, we would still perform well in those meetings. But I really had no idea how we were going to be tested. Some of you have heard this story, I'm sure, but our first meeting was at 9 a.m. with Daniel Staplekamp, the legislative director for Senator Menendez. Our delegation arrived a little bit ahead. We just moved into the conference room, and we'd just begun introductions when an alarm started to go off. It turned out to be an alarm signaling a possible aircraft impact drill, and we all had to evacuate the building. So we trooped out of the building, followed the staff member down the block, around the block. We wound up about 2 blocks away under a nice tree by the sidewalk with all the hundreds of other people evacuated from the Senate buildings. So we asked, can we just have the meeting here? And he said, yeah, okay, because we didn't want to run out of our time. So there we were under the tree having our Lobby Day meeting with the staff member. Even though it took time to evacuate, of course, we were scheduled for 30 minutes, but we actually, speaking time, spoke to him for almost 40 minutes. It went very, very well, very receptive. He had a lot of good questions for us. He was aware of the language of the bill and Senator Menendez's positions on it and so on. But because it went so well, some of the people who weren't scheduled to speak were able to join. And in fact, we weren't planning on asking for a candidate pledge, but we were able to do that too. And we're following up on whether or not he will sign a candidate pledge. Sam Daly Harris teaches us, both at the conference and when he trains us, that he says the work of preparing for the meeting and rehearsing the meeting itself is really important, and I think it was absolutely critical to our success. So, that's important, the preparation, but my takeaway was go with the flow. We were literally able to think on our feet because we were so well prepared. Under the tree, but on our feet. I guess the other thing, I just want to say very quickly, our meeting with Senator Cory Booker's staff was very different. It was more businesslike, 25 minutes. It was at the conference table, as planned. There wasn't as much time. We had different speakers planned for the roles, and that went very, very well as well, also. But people recognized that it was more businesslike. He didn't have as much time, so we weren't able to interject. People who weren't scheduled to speak really didn't interject into the conversation because there wasn't time. But that was really appropriate for the different circumstances that we faced in that meeting. I guess I'd like to share observation about the feedback that we got from the different offices about what's important to them in hearing from constituents. Menendez is a little bit older. His office, he really likes his office to rely more on numbers of calls that he gets about an issue and the emails and letters, although other offices said that all their social media contacts are counted and looked at. But they have different approaches. So I think that it's just a reinforcement to us as citizen leaders that we can't do enough to educate the public and inspire them to let their congressional representatives know that getting money out of politics is a priority. And repeated letters and calls are important. I think every opportunity we have of making an ask to write a letter or make a phone call by attendees of our outreach meetings or educational presentations that we make to any other group is probably a really great way to generate more contact for our Congress members. We had an APA outreach meeting back in May, and I did like a form letter about the candidate pledge to also send to the incumbent elected so they would be getting letters, contact about money out of politics as well. The other comment was from Senator Cory Booker's staff member who said that it's important in these kinds of big policy issues and amendments that we have a coalition of groups working together. And so, we were really well prepared, obviously, right after the conference to talk about Fix It America and Take Back Our Republic and Represent Us and Wolfpack and the other groups that we're working with. And I think anytime we have an opportunity to schedule a joint meeting with representatives of the other group, or even I think here in our area, we're going to try to maybe get some moms demand and students demand groups and or some of the environmental groups, not all together, but maybe us and one of those other interests to do a joint meeting to drive home that importance of the underpinning of money in politics to the other policy issues that we're all concerned about.
Okay, I guess that means it's my turn.
Yes.
I'm Kelly from New Jersey, and I just joined the Tri-County chapter of American Promise just back in May. And at that first meeting, I was asked to join our group of 8, to attend the conference and the lobby day in June. And I was terrified because I'd never done anything like that before. The conference was a total learning experience for me. I was literally catching up. I was learning on the fly on all the amazing work that's happening all across the country for all these different chapters of American Promise. And I learned so much from the speakers. As Marie just pointed out, all the various groups that were involved at the conference really boosted me in seeing that it's not just American Promise working in a vacuum. There's a lot of other support from all these other groups as well. But for me, the most empowering part of the entire weekend was Lobby Day on Monday. I was so nervous. I had never spoken directly to a member of Congress or had ever gone on to Capitol Hill to speak to staffers. And I think for me, it really helped having Sam Daly Harris run through with us what a meeting would be like what type of questions to expect and, who's going to speak when and how it's going to flow. So that was really helpful for me to know what to expect. So of course, we had it all planned out. Everybody knew what they were going to say and when they were going to say it. And that's when our meeting got stopped by an alarm. So for me, that was actually really good because it broke the ice. I happened to be walking down the stairs right next to the staffer. We had an entire conversation on the way out. I found out he lives in a town right next to me. He's really excited about the campaigns that are going on locally. We talked about like where he lives, and it was all just comfortable because I recognized that he's just a person. Yes, he works for Senator Menendez, and they do some amazing stuff in D.C., but he's just a person. He has a regular life just like we do. And I think that helped to kind of break the ice and open the door so that when we all got out there and we're 16 of us standing around under a tree, that we could just have an open conversation with this guy, Dan. And he had an open conversation back with us. I feel like it kind of broke down the nerves. It broke down the concerns that we might have had, and I think that allowed all of us to have just a very free conversation. So even though I was incredibly nervous heading into it, I was glad that was our first meeting. It actually helped me a lot. But I think the biggest takeaway that I personally had was to remember that these are just people. They have lives. They're doing what they're doing because they want to do good. Most of them are trying to do good in the world. And if we can find that common ground with them and start to build a relationship with them, they're going to want to help us and we're going to want to help them. And that's going to be for the good of both American Promise and our Congress members of Congress as well. So that's what I took away from the amazing weekend that I had.
Thank you so much, Kelly and Marie, for sharing. Your stories are getting me nostalgic for the conference. That was super, super awesome. Okay, so now we are going to open it up for some questions or even comments about your experience at the conference and lobby day. So if you would like to ask a question to somebody, or if you just want to share about your experience at lobby day, because I haven't actually been able to hear from people directly about how it went at your meetings and stuff and at the conference overall. So just press the number 1 on your keypad so I know to call on you. And when I call on you, shout out your name and where you're calling in from. Okay, Travis, you are unmuted. Where are you calling in from, and what's your comment or question?
Yes, so Travis from Delaware, Claremont, Delaware. I was a little confused. I think it was Jamila from New York City, APA. You had said something about, I think it was Clark, had not been on HJR 48, and then you said you checked afterward and the person had signed on to it. I thought that was a little unusual just because that one doesn't seem to be too popular, and I went and looked at co-sponsors for HJR 48, and I did not see a Clark there. So I'm just wondering if I'm misunderstanding, but that's my first question. If you want to answer it, but my second concern that I really wanted to bring up was, are there any suggestions for like follow-up with Lobby Day? I sent a couple emails, but I haven't really gotten too much of a response generally from our 3 different representatives in Congress. Well, representative and senators. So I'm just wondering about some tips for like how to keep coming back and try and really establish a good communication there.
Yeah, thank you so much for your question, Travis. Jamila, if you want to answer his question to you really quickly, and then I can go into the follow-up a little bit.
Sure. Actually, and I'm sorry, maybe I misspoke, but Yvette Clark had not signed on to HJR 31. HJR 48 is the legislation where very few have signed on as co-sponsors, and we're trying to understand why that is. But it was actually HJR 31 that Yvette Clark and Yvette Clark had not signed on to, and we were able to get her to sign on as a co-sponsor following Lobby Day.
Great, thank you so much. And then Travis, to touch on your follow-up question, so sorry that you haven't been able to get in contact again with your representatives, but I can tell you that we want to be working with APAs, us on American Promise side. So make sure that that follow-up is as powerful as possible. So we have our Director of Political Outreach and Strategy, Ben Gubitz, who's not on the call today, but he is going to be following up with representatives and senators that seemed interested in co-sponsoring bills and, getting the dialogue started. So what you can do is you can send him an email, and his email is beng@americanpromise.net, and tell him who you met with, and just, give a little bit of background of how the meeting went, and then he's going to follow up with the offices and make sure that you're in the loop, so that you can also, once the congressional leaders are in your district, that you can have a meeting with them there as well. So thank you for your question. And all that information is actually about follow-up is going to be included in the action part of the call, and is also in the action sheet that was sent out yesterday. And we're also going to send out the action sheet again on Monday. So all of the information on follow-up best practices will be included there. Okay, next question or comment. Shelly, you are unmuted. Where are you calling in from, and what's your comment or question?
Okay, so my name is Shelley Stokes. I'm calling from Alexandria, Virginia. My question was the same as Travis's, because I was wondering how we were going to follow up. So what I can do is I can send Ben Kubik the information in regards to how the lobby day went, as well as to follow up with our congressman. Let me see something here. Now, it was BENG, as in God, at AmericanPromise.net.
Correct.
Okay, I also had a question.
Sure.
So our lobby day went really smooth. We basically covered a lot of information. The aides that we met with, they stated that they would get back in touch with us or to follow up with them. And so my only concern is the representatives that we met with were Democratic. Okay, so in regards to the Republicans, what is the best approach with them? Because I find that it's probably going to be a challenge in order to have them sign on to it.
Yeah, and that's definitely the challenge moving forward, because as you all probably know, there's only one Republican co-sponsor on any of these bills that we've mentioned. So the best thing that you can do is, that dialogue, make sure that it's kind of tailored for the conservative audience, to talk about how the integrity of elections and things like that. But also on top of that, Ben will be doing a lot of follow-up with Republicans, and specifically because of our partnership with Take Back Our Republic, which is a conservative group that is doing the exact same thing that we're doing in trying to pass the 28th Amendment. So we have lots of allies on that side that are helping to bring the Republicans on board as well. And we also have other calls that have talked specifically on how to reach out with Republicans, and you can find that on our YouTube channel. But if you want to send Ben that email, he's going to be doing a lot of follow-up with Republican offices and making sure that they're on board as well, and doing that there. Thank you, Shelley, for your question. Jesse, you are unmuted. Where are you calling in from? What's your comment or question?
Oh, no, I'm New York, and I was actually just going to say what Jamila said, because it was my my error in getting the two resolutions backwards. So she already answered the question for Travis. Thanks.
Okay, great. No problem. Marie, you are unmuted. Go right ahead.
Hi, I actually had an answer for Travis's question about follow-up, and that is that we have really found, and we've actually been told by a few of the congressional staffers, that the best way was to call them, and the email is good, and I sent emails in thanks to all of them, and I got responses from none of them, but in calls I've gotten to speak to several of them by calling, and sometimes I had to leave a message and then have them call me back. But I did that, and I have gotten to speak to several of them. So the calls are really through the main DC number of the office have really been the best way to get back in touch with them.
Thank you so much, Marie, for that insight. All right, everybody, thank you for your comments and your questions. We are going to move on to the grassroots share of the call. So before we get to the grassroots victory, though, I do want to talk about some actions that APAs have taken recently. So last year, APA members had 17 meetings with their elected officials or staff. But last month, we had 70 meetings, so we've had a total of 100 meetings so far, which is our goal. So that's really amazing, and congratulations to everybody. There were also 26 media pieces published last year, and last month we had 6 media pieces published, for a total of 37 media pieces published so far this year. And our goal is to have 100 media pieces published in 2018. So this is all to say that there are a growing number of people who are passionate about fighting for a government that represents us, the people, and that's great news for everybody. And we want to make sure that we know about your meetings with elected officials and your media pieces published so we can include them in our total for the next month. So if you've had a meeting with an elected official or their staff, or you've had a media piece published, so this could be a letter to the editor, an op-ed, an article about your lobby day, anything like that, you can go to our website, which is AmericanPromise.net, and you can go to the Take Action drop-down menu and click on the Citizen Uprising Reporting Forms. And that is where you can go and input the information about your media piece published, your event, your local resolution, all that good stuff. And the growth that we're seeing in these numbers is really exciting and indicative of the growing amount of people who are stepping up and getting involved to get big money out of politics. I'm now going to pass it over to Jerry Lloyd, who is a member of the Kansas City American Promise Association, who is going to share about his group's launch workshop that happened just last week, and his experience writing a guest commentary for the Kansas City Star, which is a local paper that has a circulation of over 76,000. Okay, Jerry, you are unmuted. Feel free to share.
Thanks, Roy. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, hear you great.
Okay, I'm a little bit hoarse today, so that's why I was asking. I'm just going to read kind of a report to you in the interest of me not blabbing for too long. So in early May, I had a letter to the editor of the Kansas City Star published. I tied my letter to an article that had appeared in the Star that expressed my support of American Promise and the goal to create a 28th Amendment to get big money out of politics and ensure fair representation of the American people. I recommended that people check out AmericanPromise.net and get involved. One of the Star's editorial staff followed up on my article and contacted American Promise, asking if there was a local organization of AP. They referred to my wife, Louise, who is one of the leaders of the Kansas City Region APA. Through phone and email correspondence, Louise was told that they were interested in having someone from the local organization expand on my letter in a guest editorial to further describe the issues and what American Promise is doing locally about the 28th Amendment. He specifically wanted to be sure we were a cross-partisan organization, and then he asked if we had an upcoming event we wanted to promote. Louise replied that we were having a June 30th Get Big Money Out of Politics workshop. He said that if my guest editorial was accepted, he would see if he could get it published shortly before our workshop. I led my editorial with a reference to articles that had appeared in the Star about campaign financing, dark money, secret donor lists, and lack of transparency in government. My particular focus is on campaign finance reform and correcting the court's view that money is a form of speech. Before we left for NCLC, we were notified that my guest editorial would probably appear in the Star the week following the conference, but we didn't know what day. As it turned out, we had something of a perfect storm of publication in the Star, because the day before my article was published, the Missouri State Auditor had an editorial in the Star stating that a secretive organization that had donated to the Missouri governor's campaign should be investigated even though the governor has resigned since. My article was published, which spoke to the issues of unlimited campaign donations and secret donor list, and announced that we were sponsoring a workshop on Saturday. Before the workshop, we thought we might have a dozen or less show up. We ended up hosting 38 people in a room where capacity was 40. Roboy did a great job conducting the workshop, and we have set up 4 events on Facebook, our Facebook page, for the following training sessions that Roboy will conduct via Skype. And the first of those sessions was July 12th. End of report. How'd I do?
You did really, really great, Jerry. Thank you so much for sharing, and congratulations to you and your team and to Louise on an incredible APA launch. And if there's anybody on the call who is not yet in an APA and wants to learn more about starting one, you can send me an email at wambuig@americanpromise.net. That's wambuig@americanpromise.net. And thank you so much to all of our incredible guest speakers. I'm giving you a proverbial round of applause. I love hearing from all of you. I think that's the best. Those are the best speakers, in my opinion. All right, so now we're going to talk about this month's action, which is writing letters to the editor, highlighting our recent Lobby Day meetings on Capitol Hill with members of Congress or their staff. You don't have to have gone to the conference or to Lobby Day to tell others about it. It is the political will of the people that drives and sustains the political will of government. And these meetings and sharing about them are exactly how we'll win the 28th Amendment. Now, the hard work has been done, so let's share the good news. So you should have received the action sheet in the email yesterday, but in case you missed it, you can find this month's action sheet and past action sheets by going to the American Promise website, which is americanpromise.net, and click on How We Win Together. Then click on Start an APA and scroll to the bottom of the page to access the month's action sheet. So here are a few items to complete with our Lobby Day follow-ups. So we want to make sure that all of your Lobby Day reports are posted online. So far we have about 40 to 50 reports, but we want to make sure that we have all 70 reports from all 70 meetings so that they're accounted for. Next, make sure that you fill out the news release template, and you can find that easily, and you can send that to your local media to help spread the word about Lobby Day and NCLC. And the follow-up email that I'm going to send out on Monday, I'll include a link to the template. And this is another great way to increase follow-up from your meeting, because as a member of Congress, they usually are tuned into the local newspapers. They see that article has been published, and aide is likely to follow up with you on getting a meeting in district. Speaking of follow-up, you want to make sure that your member of Congress has taken an action on either your primary or a secondary ask that you gave during your meetings. We know members of Congress who have co-sponsored some resolutions because of your Lobby Day meetings, and we want to make sure that there aren't any others who said they would co-sponsor but need a follow-up. We also want to know, were there any openings on a Republican-only resolution? So not necessarily a commitment, but an opening that the Ben Gubitz, who is the Director of Political Strategy, can follow up with the Republicans himself. And again, if you think that your meeting with a Republican went really well and that they seemed open to talking more about this issue, send Ben an email at beng@americanpromise.net. Next is that we should be making requests to meet face-to-face with our reps and senators in July and August. So will the aide that you met with help in getting that meeting with their boss? Hopefully they can, and as you have noticed, after meeting with them, you kind of have started a relationship with the aides if you met with the aide. So this is a really great time to call them up. And now is the perfect time to schedule a meeting with your elected officials because of summer recess in August, meaning that they're likely to be in district in that month. And also because the election season is approaching, elected officials are more open to meeting with their constituents and demonstrating their availability. So remember, when we're trying to grow these relationships with our elected officials, is that we need to have multiple meetings in order to do so. So on Monday, I implore all of you to give a call to your representatives and their offices, both in the district and in the capital, to schedule those follow-up meetings as soon as possible. So I know I've said a lot, so are there any questions on anything that I've said? If you have a question, press the number 1 on your keypad, and I will call on you. Wow, I guess I'm just super great at explaining things. Oh, good. We have a question. Joan, you are unmuted. Where are you calling in from, and what's your question?
Hi, this is Joan DeVore from Tri-County APA, and I wish it was a more impactful question, but I just wanted you to run by again. I did a presentation the Monday after the National Citizens Leadership Conference to a group, an Indivisible group. It went really well, and I think you had mentioned a few minutes ago in the call that I should report that as well into the AP database. And could you just repeat again how I do that?
Sure. So if you go onto the American Promise website and click on Take Action, there should be the Citizen Reporting Form link right there on the website. And then you just type in whatever you need. Yep. And
yeah, it went really well. I really am looking forward to doing it again.
That's awesome, Joan. How many people were in the room?
I'm thinking maybe about 20.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Congratulations. Okay, Travis, you are unmuted. What's your question, and where are you calling in from?
Calling in from Claymont, Delaware. So just, I think I missed what you were saying. So the reports that we had put in for the lobby day, where can we go to access those?
So once they're reported, you can't access them again, but if you would like to see your report, I can happily send them to you again, if that's what you want. Is that it? Would you like?
Okay, so I guess I missed what you were talking about, having things uploaded.
Oh, yes. So what I was talking about was reporting your meetings. So once you've had your meeting, typing in what happened. We did, during the lobby day, we gave you a worksheet to fill out, and then you put that into the website. And I can send you.
Okay, well, I have a written version. I thought this was something you wanted us to look at. Sorry.
Oh, nope. All right, thank you for the question. All right. Any other questions? Press the number 1 on your keypad, and I will unmute you. Shelly, you are unmuted. What's your question?
Okay, this is Shelly from Alexandria, Virginia. My question was, I believe, for Ms. DeVore, or Joan DeVore, you stated that you had conducted a workshop. How did you gather the interest of the people in order to attend that workshop?
It wasn't a workshop. It was sort of a presentation.
Okay.
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
I can.
And actually, this is an Indivisible group in the area, and they, I think through Marie Hetzelder-Kimmel, who is also in the Tri-County APA, they knew her and they contacted her. And these are a bunch of people who are very active right now politically, and a lot of them are very involved in a particular congressional race supporting a candidate who's named Andy Kim, who's going up against Tom MacArthur in District 3 in New Jersey. So really, they contacted us, and I think it was probably through Marie networking and us just knowing people. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Because I'm trying to find an effective way in order to network so that we can bring more people in our area into Alexandria, Virginia. So that was my sole reason for asking.
Well, I guess some of the things that we've tried that may work are contacting these folks through their Facebook pages, through going to some of their meetings, through emailing them and making the offer, sort of giving your brief description of what we are and offering to speak. I think a lot of these folks would be interested, and a lot of them, as politically aware as they have become within their groups, they still, this is information that they don't necessarily know as well as we might think they do, and are very, very interested in learning.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great. I love it when APA leaders can, exchange information like that. All right. Judith, you are unmuted. What's your question?
Yeah, hi, this is Judy Butler in Delaware. I was just wondering how much success, if any, anyone has had getting candidates or incumbents in particular to sign off on our candidates pledge.
We've actually had a lot of success with the candidate pledge. We've had over 150 candidates sign the pledge nationwide, and that all happened within the first part of the year. So before election season was really, really, really underway. And we've had quite a few incumbents actually sign the pledge. And if you are interested in seeing a full list of candidate pledge signers, you can go to americanpromise.net/pledge, and you can see a full list of all the candidates segmented by state, and you can see who signed and for what office. Great. Are there any other questions? Just press the number 1 on your keypad. Alrighty. Okay, we have a question. Sharon, where are you calling in from and what's your question?
Yes, this is Sharon. I'm in Delaware too, and many people I know, and especially our fearless leader Judy Butler, has written just recently, and we're waiting for publication of one of her op-eds. I was wondering if it were possible if we could actually all exchange these op-eds somehow on the website. I'd love to print off about 150 of them and physically take them around to show our representatives just how serious we all think this is. Would that be possible?
So you're asking for kind of like a database of previously published letters to the editor and op-eds so that you can send them, show them to your representatives?
Absolutely, because I have this.
That's a great idea.
They think that we're all working as individual people, and we're not. We're big, and I think that would make us look more powerful.
That's a great idea, Sharon. What I'll do is I will look into that, and if not, I'm sure that people can be posting them on our Facebook page as well as in HP Connect. But if you are looking for some specific ones in your area, send me an email, or I'll connect with you after the call. I'll send you an email, and we'll see how we can get this started. That sounds like a great idea, though, and something that would be very useful to everybody. So thank you for that comment. Okay, are there any other comments or questions from anybody? Just press the number 1 on your keypad, and I'll call on you. Okay, well, we are a little bit early, but that's okay. You can go ahead and continue on with your weekend. And if you're with your group members when we hang up, please stay and write to send your letters to the editor. And as always, it's an honor to be on the call with you. I'm going to take everybody off mute so we can say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody, and have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye.